The letter was open. Torn, like her heart had been clawing to find something hidden in the creases of her life. My daughter stood there in the dim kitchen light at 3 a.m., her hands trembling, her face pale as if she had seen a ghost she knew too well. And outside, as if summoned by fate itself, the doorbell rang once, low, cold, final as she didn't move. Neither did I. The silence in our home was thunderous, punctuated only by the soft, crinkling sound of the letters shaking between her fingers. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came. I knew what she had just read. I knew what door she'd just unlocked in her mind. For 16 years, that letter had slept under the floorboard beneath my bed, sealed in an envelope that smelled of lavender and regret. And now, everything was waking up. Who's at the door, Mom? She asked, her voice raw. Her eyes didn't leave mine. I stepped forward, but I didn't answer. I couldn't. My heartbeat was all I could hear now, a deep, pulsing echo in my ears. I crossed the hallway, each step heavier than the last, my hand reaching for the doorknob as the air thickened around me. The second ring came, firmer this time. As if the past itself was growing impatient, I opened the door. He stood there, wet from the rain. His eyes, the same sharp, stormy blue as hers, locked onto mine, then flicked past me to the shadow behind my shoulder. A breath escaped his lips, the kind you release when you've been holding something in for far too long. Maya, he whispered my daughter's name. His voice. My nightmare. I stepped in front of her instinctively, but she had already come forward, letter still in hand, the truth burning between her and this man. She looked at him like her soul was unraveling, piece by piece. Her gaze screamed a question I never let her ask. She began, but her voice cracked like glass under pressure. She didn't finish. She didn't have to. He nodded once, slow. Yes. I'm your father. And with that, the last 16 years of lies collapsed in the hallway like a house of brittle cards. Maya stumbled back a step, and I saw her clutch her chest, not dramatically, but like she was trying to hold something broken inside her ribs. She dropped the letter. Pages scattered across the floor like spilled memories, the ultrasound, the photo of him and me on the beach, the note I had written, folded, sealed, and buried with every intention it would never be found. I should have burned it. But I didn't. Because some part of me, maybe I wanted her to know. Just not like this. Not at 3 a.m. Not with rain pouring outside and silence stabbing between the three of us. I thought you were dead, she said suddenly, her eyes wild. Now, fixed on him like she was trying to convince herself he was real. No, he said, stepping in, soaked shoes leaving muddy prints on the wooden floor. She told you I was. Didn't she? I tried to speak. I opened my mouth, but my voice, it had drowned. Every word I'd rehearsed in case this moment ever came, gone. I couldn't explain. I couldn't justify. I couldn't tell her how. It felt to hold her as a newborn and know the man who gave her life also destroyed mine. Do you have problems like this, secrets you buried so deep that even your own heart forgot how to feel them? Have you ever watched your child look at you like you're the villain in their life story? I did. Right there. In the hallway, with the rainstorm growing louder behind him and her silence screaming louder than any argument we could ever have, she bent down and picked up the photo of us, the only one that ever existed, and stared at it like she was seeing a ghost version of her own past. Why? She asked, but it wasn't directed at him. It was at me. I finally stepped forward, my hands trembling. I did what I had to, Maya. No, she said, stepping back. You did what was easiest for you. And then she ran, not up to her room, not into the night, but into the dark corner of the living room, curling up like a child, like the 16-year-old girl she still was but had just been forced to outgrow in one moment. Her father took a cautious step toward her, but I put my hand on his chest. Don't. She needs time. She needs the truth, he said, his voice sharper now. She needed protection, I snapped, the old rage flickering behind my teeth. From you. But he didn't argue. He just looked at her. Like a man who was seeing a miracle he didn't deserve. The silence between us was thick enough to choke on. Rain continued to lash against the windows, loud, relentless, like the sky itself was trying to wash away what had just happened. My daughter sat curled on the couch, staring into the dark. Holding the photograph like it was the only thing anchoring her to reality. Her breathing was shallow, fast, like she was trying to keep herself from falling apart. He stood by the door, unmoving. Water dripped from his coat, pooling at his feet, but he didn't seem to notice. His eyes stayed fixed on her, not mine. Not the walls around him that used to be his home, but her. The daughter he had never touched, never held, never even seen until now. 16 years of absence crashing into one moment. Maya, he said gently, like saying her name was a prayer. Please. Just let me talk to you. Let me explain. She didn't answer. Her fingers gripped the frame of the photo so tightly. I thought it might snap in half. I saw the rage swelling in her, not loud rage, but the kind that sits quiet, deep, slow burning, and it was my fault. You don't get to walk in here and pretend to be her father, I whispered, stepping between them again, even though I knew I was already losing ground. You gave up that right. You disappeared. You left us. He turned to me, his face twisting. I didn't leave. You shut me out. You made sure I could never find you. My voice trembled, but I raised it anyway. Because you were dangerous, Ethan. You were. I stopped, but it was too late. Maya looked up. Dangerous, she repeated, her voice dry and raw. What does that mean? I froze. My heart thudded in my chest, heavy and uneven. The secrets I'd protected her from were leaking out faster than I could stop them. Her father didn't hesitate. She's never told you why she ran, has she? She looked at me, confused, angry, waiting. I could feel her trying to decode the lies I'd layered over her childhood. I never hurt her, he said, stepping forward slowly. Not the way you're thinking. But I was a wreck. I drank too much. I made promises I couldn't keep. I wasn't the man she needed. But I wanted to be there. I begged to be there. Don't you dare, I started. I wrote letters, he cut in, his voice tightening. I called. I came to your mother's house. I came to your old job. You blocked every number I ever had. You changed your name. I thought maybe she'd died. Or that you both had. I shook my head, but it was no use. Maya was staring at me like I was a stranger. Is that true? She asked quietly. Her voice wasn't accusing yet. But the hope in it, the desperate, fragile hope that maybe I hadn't lied to her for her whole life, it crushed me more than the anger ever could. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I found out about your birth through an old mutual friend. Ethan said, his voice softer now. That's when I started writing those letters. I left them at your grandmother's house. But your mom never let me see you. Not even once. I stared at him, my chest burning. Because you were falling apart. Because I watched you throw a bottle at the wall and swear you'd rather die than raise a child. I was 2 months pregnant. You were drowning, and I wasn't going to let you take her down with you. He flinched. I got clean. A year after you left. A year too late. I snapped, finally losing control. You don't get a medal for deciding to be a father after she's already born. You should have stayed clean before you broke everything. Maya stood suddenly. The photo dropped from her hand and hit the ground with a soft crack. Stop, she said. Just one word, but it carried the weight of both our guilt. Just stop. She looked between us, her two parents, both liars in different ways, and shook her head. I don't care about your fights. I don't care who left who. I care about the 16 years I spent thinking I had no one but you, Mom. And now I find out there was someone else who was out there, someone who looked like me, and you kept that from me? Tears were running down her cheeks now, silent. And fast. I wanted to protect you, I said, my voice barely a whisper. From what? The truth, she spat. I needed the truth more than I needed safety. Do you know how many nights I cried in my bed thinking maybe I wasn't enough? That maybe he knew about me and just didn't want me? Ethan stepped closer to her. That was never true. She backed away. How would I know that? You think a letter could have fixed that? A secret under the floorboard? I needed to see you. I needed to know you existed. He looked gutted. Hollow. Like a man who had been given a chance to taste a life he'd missed, only to realize it was poisoned with old wounds. I can't undo what happened, he said. But I'm here now. Maya's laugh was cold. Now. At 3 a.m. After 16 years? Yes, he said, and for once, his voice didn't shake. Because I never stopped looking. And that, more than anything else, broke her. She crumpled to the floor, sobbing loud, broken sobs that sounded like grief and betrayal had collided all at once. I rushed to her, but she pushed my arms away. Just leave me alone, she whispered. Both of you. We didn't move. We couldn't. The storm outside raged harder, as if the universe had something left to say. I looked at Ethan, and in his eyes, I saw the reflection of every wrong choice we'd both made. He had hurt me, yes. But I had built a wall so high between him and our daughter that she never even knew he existed. And now, that wall had fallen, but it didn't reveal peace. It revealed wreckage. For hours, no one spoke. The storm outside eventually softened to a cold drizzle, but inside, everything remained soaked in the weight of a truth that had taken too long to surface. Maya stayed on the floor, her knees drawn to her chest, her back against the cold wall like it was the only thing holding her up. I sat across the room in the armchair where I used to rock her to sleep, my fingers locked around each other until they turned red. Ethan stood near the window, barely moving, his eyes lost in the nothingness beyond the glass. She was the one who finally broke the silence. Tell me everything, she said, her voice hollow. Start from the beginning. And don't lie. I looked at Ethan, then back at her. My throat was dry, but I nodded. She deserved that much. I met him when I was 20, I began. I was in nursing school. He was working construction at the time. He was funny and wild and full of energy. I was drawn to him like a flame, and I didn't even notice how close I was getting burned. The first year was good. He'd leave little notes for me on my windshield. Show up at my dorm with coffee and a rose. We used to lie on the roof and count stars. I thought that meant forever. Ethan shifted slightly but didn't interrupt. But things started to change, I continued. He drank more. He got angry faster. He'd disappear for days, come back with excuses and bloodshot eyes. I told myself it was stress. That he'd grow out of it. I was naive. I didn't know what addiction really was back then. I looked at Maya. She was staring at the floor, but I could see her listening, every word cutting a new edge into her. Understanding. When I found out I was pregnant with you, I was terrified. Not because of you. Never because of you. But because I knew I was alone. I told him. He cried. He swore he'd be better. But 2 weeks later, he punched a hole in our apartment wall because I asked him to skip a party. I never hit her, Ethan said quietly, his voice barely audible. But I scared her. I know I did. I was spiraling. I left in the middle of the night, I said. I went to my mother's. I cut contact with everyone we both knew. I changed my number. My name. I even moved states for a while. You didn't tell him? Maya asked, lifting her eyes. I was afraid, I said, choking on the truth. Not of him hurting you. But of you loving him. Of him pulling you into that same chaos. I couldn't let you grow up thinking that kind of love was okay. She blinked slowly, absorbing it, layer by layer. And then what? She asked. I tried to move on. I built a life. I told you stories about him that made sense to a child. A man who had passed away. A father who loved you but couldn't be there. I never expected he'd come back. I did come back, Ethan said. I found out where you were too late. The letters, the calls, the gifts I left, I don't know what happened to most of them. But I never stopped looking. I got clean. I stayed clean. I went to therapy. I waited for the day she'd turn 18 and I could reach out legally. And then the letter, Maya said, her voice cracking. I nodded. That letter was my confession. I wrote it when you were 6. I hid it and told myself I'd give it to you when you were ready. But I never could. You were always so happy. So full of life. I didn't want to be the reason that changed. But I found it, she said, and her eyes filled again. And I changed anyway. A beat passed. Then another. I don't know how to feel, she admitted, her voice barely audible. I'm angry. At both of you. I feel like my whole life's been this pretty room, and someone just turned on the light and showed me the cracks in the walls. Ethan took a slow step forward. You have every right to be angry. I missed your first steps. Your first word. I missed your birthdays, your dances, your tears. I missed everything. And it kills me. She looked up at him. Then why are you here now? Because I still want to be your father, he said, his voice trembling. Even if it's just a little. Even if you only let me send you letters. Even if you never forgive me. And what about you? She asked me. What do you want? I swallowed. I want you to forgive me. Not today. Maybe not ever. But I want you to understand why I did it. I was trying to give you peace. I didn't realize I was also giving you pain. She stood slowly, her knees stiff from sitting so long. She walked past us both, toward the kitchen. I thought she was going to walk out the back door. But instead, she returned with 3 mugs of tea, hands shaking as she set them on the table. I don't know what happens next, she said. But I want to hear more. About the both of you. About everything. So we talked. For hours, we poured everything out. The fights. The laughter. The regrets. I told her about the time Ethan made me laugh so hard I fell off a swing. Ethan told her about the letter he wrote on her 5th birthday, the one he buried in the woods behind his rehab center because he had nowhere else to put it. Maya didn't smile. But she listened. And when the sun finally rose through the gray rain clouds, I saw something in her face, not forgiveness, not yet, but curiosity. Hope, maybe. The beginning of something new. We were broken people. But we were together. Finally. And sometimes, that's enough to begin again, Spitat. Essay Model ChatGPT.